In today's video, we are going to be breaking down Gary Trent Jr. and why he is really surprising the NBA right now. He is going on a tear. He's been absolutely ripping up the league. So let's get down and let's check him out. Okay, so here we have him coming off of a double pin down or a staggered pin down screen, and then he pops for a three. Why was he able to get so wide open? Well, if obviously we have to really praise these screeners for setting a really solid screen, but we really need to see what Gary Trent Jr. is actually doing, and that is he is reading the defense. When he receives this ball, he notices that his man went underneath that screen. When your man goes underneath that screen, you need to pop for that shot, because he's not going to contest it. However, if that defender went over top of these screens, we would need to see Gary Trent Jr. curl in or down, depending on what these other two defenders are doing, mainly because now, if he's following you, you need to actually use those screens. However, if that defender is going underneath, you need to pop for that shot because you will be absolutely wide open. And that's why he was able to get open so much that he was able to pop for a shot very easily. Gary Trent Jr. is also very good at being able to play defense and poke those balls away, whether it's in the post or when he's getting screened for. Here's a very good example again of Gary Trent using a dribble handoff in this case. Originally, that defender was going to go underneath that screen, and that allowed that defender to get caught on that screen, in which case Gary Trent Jr. was able to pop for that shot in theory. However, that defender came out to contest that shot. Of course, Gary Trent Jr. has been on a tear, and because of that, he's able to then look for that rolling player, and he's able to get that rolling player a layup. So by reading that defense, understanding what is about to happen, and then hitting that roll man with a perfect pass, always being in attack mode, making it looking at that rim. By looking at that rim, that pulled that hedge man out even further, and that allowed him to get that assist. I'm going to explain something right now. Wing to point passes are risky. Corner to point passes are even riskier. And if you are a defender, for example, here we have Gary Trent Jr., if you see an opportunity to disrupt a pass, whether you get that steal or not, you're going to be able to get yourself potentially open dunks or layups. The reason why I say this is because by it being the point, guess what? There is a whole bunch of space and defenders for you to be able to recover to. So if you want to play risky on defense and you want to go for a pickoff pass from a corner or even a wing to the point, I would say 100% go for it unless that player is Steph Curry, because there is really nothing that could happen that's bad, because now you just need to recover because there's going to be other players who are going to be able to fill that defensive position. In this next clip, we're going to be looking up here at Gary Trent. Here, what do we see? Well, we see Delano Banton attacking that middleman. That then allowed Gary Trent Jr. to move off ball to the point where it was wide open. See, we need to, as players, understand what's happening to the defenders, and here he's cutting across from the sideline to the point. Delano Banton was able to attack those players there, which then allowed them to be preoccupied essentially by Delano Banton, which then allowed him to basically just drop off a pass to Gary Trent. And Gary Trent was able to get this shot mainly because he noticed that there was nobody at the point, and because there was nobody offensively or defensively at the point, he knew that if he was able to get there, Delano Banton would be able to get him his three. Again, being able to play defense from behind a player going for that ball is extremely important today. At the high school level, this may have been called a foul potentially. However, if it was a good referee, they would have seen that you would have gotten all ball and of course the layup. This is just a really good 4-out play where you get that pass over to Gary Trent and then you cut to the basket using the back screen from the postman, and then that postman comes up and sets that screen for Gary Trent, and because Gary Trent is always in attack mode, always looking to attack or take that shot, he's able to attack that hedge man with his own defender on him, which leaves Scottie Barnes essentially open in a way way other than the fact that now he has his shoulder in front of Jalen Green's shoulder, which gives him the angle. That secondary hedge man has now popped off to continue to guard Barnes, and because that's happening, we have Gary Trent Jr. who's able to take a quick step back because he had that angle initially on Jalen Green to be able to get that shot. In this next clip right here, we have Gary Trent Jr. He's watching Pascal Siakam attack the basket, and both of these players were looking at that ball. And when he and yourself are in this position where you're maybe on a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-2 or a 2-on-3 fast break, I wouldn't say 2-on-3 is a fast break by any means, but if you see that there are multiple players who are paying attention to the ball handler, as we see here, you can cut in behind those two defenders, and if you have a good passer on your team, he should be able to find you in position to be able to get that layup. This is another fantastic way of being able to use a dribble handoff or even a screen. If a player is trying to cut off your ability to use a DHO or a screen, what you can do, here's what we exactly see. That player will run through, and then you need to cut back, because now you need to create separation between yourself and your defender, which you've done because he made a massive mistake, which then allows you to be wide open for a 3-point shot. I hope that this video helps you become a better basketball player. If it does, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.